Automaker Henry Ford had contracted Charlie Steinmetz to have generators placed throughout his factory. These generators supplied all the electricity that was needed. One day, those generators, they ground to a halt. Repairmen were called in, but they could not find out what the problem was. So, Steinmetz was asked to return to the factory. He worked for a few hours, and then he threw the switch, and those generators came back to life. He then sent a bill to Henry Ford for $10,000. Now, Henry Ford was tight-fisted with money, and he was flabbergasted at the amount of the bill. And he wanted to have an accounting for why was the bill so much. And this is what Steinmetz sent back to Henry Ford. For tinkering with the generators, $10. For knowing where to tinker, $9,990. Well, Henry Ford, he paid the bill because he knew that knowledge and skill, it's inseparable. Welcome to the Word for 2022. In this chapter, in verse 29, you will read, God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight, and a breadth of understanding as measureless as the sand on the seashore. And then in verse 31, you will read, and Solomon was wiser than any other man. He spoke 3,000 proverbs. He wrote 1,005 songs. He spoke about plant life and animals and governance. And it says that men from all nations came to listen to Solomon's wisdom. One of the wisest decisions that Solomon did was he acted upon the understanding that he could not rule the kingdom alone. He had to delegate. And as you read this chapter, he appointed officials and governors, secretaries, recorders, administrators, and managers. Each appointee was given a specific task to help organize and see that everything within the kingdom of Israel ran smoothly. What was the result? Israel grew, it prospered, and there was peace and safety. Solomon could not have done it alone. Similarly, if we're going to be effective, we need others as well. We cannot do it on our own. We need to know what our strengths are and our weaknesses, and we need to allow others to help us. If we do, however, try to do it all on our own, we can expect frustration, we'll feel isolated, there'll be discouragement, and we will feel exhausted. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, God made it very clear that it is not good for His people to be alone. Therefore, God designed us to cooperate with one another. He designed us to be in community. We can always accomplish more together than we can alone. As the church, we are called a body. Henry Blackaby put it this way, God established the church and released His Holy Spirit to empower the community of believers to spread the gospel. We are a kingdom of priests. During difficult times, it is critical that we are walking in fellowship with other Christians. And another devotional writer, Leah DePascal, she put it this way, Jesus had 12 disciples whom He chose to walk the difficult road of ministry with and to share some of the burden. If anyone had the authority and the strength to do it alone, it was Jesus. But He chose not to, and neither should we. Thank you for joining the Word for 2022.